Yeah, what do you want? We fought against the Republic forces for some time, over the course of many battles. At the start, they were not much of a threat to speak of. But once the Jedi Revan took charge, things began to turn against us. The Republic fleets began to use more than just basic tactics. Feints, counterattacks, mass deceptions. Revan was a genius on the field. Revan abandoned worlds of their defenders so that others would be too fortified to strike, and was willing to make sacrifices in order to advance goals. And in the end, Revan proved too much for us. The Sith had gone, retreated into their empire. They sealed themselves off from the rest of the galaxy. We thought it would be centuries before they'd come back. It's amazing that they could rebuild their fleet so fast. But at the time, it looked like the galaxy was in our grasp. I still remember that final battle in the skies above Malachor V. The two fleets filling the space around it, outshining the stars. It was not your ships or your men or your vaunted fight for freedom that won this, the final battle of the war. It was by the actions of one person, the Jedi Revan, that you prevailed. His strategies and tactics defeated the best of us. Even Mandalore himself was taken aback by the ferocity of his attacks, the tenacity of his defenses, and the subtleties of his plans. He fought us to a standstill, and then began pushing back. We really didn't have a chance. It was what we had wanted all along, in a way. We wanted to fight the best, in a battle that would be remembered for centuries. And we did. And Revan won. I don't hold a grudge against Revan, and neither do any of my people. It was the greatest moment of my life to be in that battle. If Revan had been a Mandalorian, nothing in the galaxy would have stopped us. But wishing for the past to be different is useless. Better look to the future, as we should now. We'll talk more later, I think. Is there something else you want to know? Your choice. I'm here if you want something done right.
Got something on your mind, dude? Oh, I get it. Let's play with the old man's head, is it? He's half senile. He'll forget I said anything. Wait, well, what was this about anyway?
Hey there, what can I do for you? Maybe if we get these tat glands for him, things will work out. Or maybe he'll finally see the light and turn over a new leaf. I know it's not likely, but it's all I have to hope for.
Yes. What is it? I was remembering Taris. No, it's all right. I think I'm over the worst of it. I apologize again for lashing out at you. It was not your fault. It was a horrible place to have to live. At least in the lower cities where the non-humans tended to get relegated. Living for years in a place with no sun, living off the trash dropped from the upper levels, and the meager pay doing back-breaking labor. There was always the danger of raccoons coming up from the sewers, or more mundane predators living and working in the area. My family and I struggled each and every day to make something of our lives. But we could only go so far. Taxes from the corrupt government, more fees from the gangs controlling the streets, and whatever was left paying for what food and medical supplies we could afford. And of course, there was the constant bigotry and hate from the more affluent and human citizens, lording their wealth over us living below. Every once in a while, a rich human would come down through the lower levels with his droid entourage just to see how the wildlife lived, and laughed at the mockeries that were our successes. But I have come to meet many decent humans in my travels since those days. Indeed, some of the greatest people I have ever met are human. The Jedi who encouraged me to join the Order, the one who was with the group going to fight the Mandalorians, she was human. I suppose I see something of her in you when I look. I am sorry. I am getting away from my point, if there even was one. Sometimes I curse the day my parents fled to Taris, but then again, if they had not, I would not be where I am today. Another story for another time. For now, we must continue our own epic. To save the galaxy, if we can.
How can I help? Then I suggest we move on.
Yes, what's on your mind? To think that I once looked up to these two as the best that humanity had to offer. Now I'd like nothing more than to put a blaster to both their heads. Although I suppose that only Malik is left, isn't he? Turned on his own master. Not that Revan didn't have it coming. Typical for their kind, I guess. Nobody does. When they left, after the Mandalorian Wars ended, they were Jedi. When they returned, they were something else. I used to think that it was a fancy name for something that I see every day. Corruption is everywhere. People are greedy and stupid and do horrible things. I'm starting to think it's different for the Jedi, however. That there's this evil watching them, waiting for its chance. You have so much courage and strength in you, yet somehow I have no trouble imagining it differently, like the flip side of a coin. It's not just you, it's Bastila as well. She's so intense. And I don't pretend to know much about the Force, but I know evil. No, of course not. All I'm saying is that when you have so much power, the stakes are higher. I can only imagine the kind of conflict that goes on inside you. Well, neither you nor Bastila are fully trained on how to handle your power. I'm just concerned at what might come. Oh, and that's not what I wouldn't want to see you hurt, either of you. I suppose finding the star maps is more important than your training and your safety. I just hope there isn't a price for you to pay.
Calo Nord is dead, Lord Malik. He has failed in his mission. Forgive me.
The penalty for failure is death, Admiral Kareth. But the failure was Calo's, not yours. You may rise.
Shall I hire another bounty hunter, Lord Malik?
No mere bounty hunter can stand against a Jedi. I shall not make the same mistake again. My apprentice, Darth Bandon, shall take care of our young Jedi friend. Bastila and bring her to me, alive if possible.
As you command, Master.
How can I help? Then I suggest we move on.
Yes, what's on your mind? Oh, it's nothing, sorry. I told you my wife died 4 years ago. I've just been trying to remember what she looked like. It shouldn't be so difficult. I can remember things about her, things she did, the way she smiled, what her hair smelled like. Our last fight, just not her face. I try and hold it in my head, but it's gone. I know, is that strange? Maybe I shouldn't be talking to you about this. But I should be able to remember her face. It's frustrating. I feel like I'm losing her. It must look really strange for me to be obsessing like this still. You must think I'm incredibly stupid. Well, I suppose you're probably right, but I have to do it anyway. The only thing that's kept me going since she died has been the need to find Saul and kill him. It's better to think about that than anything else. If I can do that, then maybe I can let her go. Let it all go. If we encounter Saul, if we ever have the chance, promise me that I'll be the one to kill him. I have to settle this. I need to. Whether it does or not, that's the way it has to be. I guess there's no need to discuss it until then.
Got something on your mind, dude? You got yourself a fast little ship? I'd forgot what engine sounded like. The closest thing to that on Kashyyyk is an Uller in mating season. Ugh, frightful. Or it could be for the free food. What's the gunk that comes out of the synthesizer on this bucket anyway? Do you never clean the darn thing? How impatient can one person be? You must have driven your mother mad. All that gurgling and fussing. Babies are cute, but annoying. You know, you remind me of someone else I knew ages ago. Pleasant enough fellow, great destiny, all of that. Breath like a bantha. So I am. Tell you what, when you get to be my age, you can go ahead and answer any question you like to. You have my permission. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes, Andor Vex was his name. The force swirled around him like a hurricane. That's how great his destiny was. I did. Just because someone has the force swirling about them doesn't always mean they have a great destiny. But it doesn't hurt to check it out. Well, it turned out that poor Andor believed a wee bit too much in the infallibility of that destiny. That overconfidence turned out to be his downfall. I don't know. Are you overconfident? I hadn't noticed. Even if I had, I would never comment on it. We're talking about Andor, remember? Let's see. Oh yes, Andor's downfall. I was pretty young myself when it happened. At the time, I thought that Andor's destiny couldn't be more boring. Well, he had a much better food dispenser than you do. That and the fact that even I wasn't an altogether impatient twit. I was just about to abandon Andor to whatever the Force intended for him when his ship was overtaken by a Dimian warship. Now, you've probably never heard of the Dimians, but at the time they were a nasty lot led by a nastier overlord named Krat. Tall fellow, big teeth. Krat has us hauled onto the bridge of his ship for questioning, and that's when I knew that Andor's destiny was at hand. Well, Andor decides that his destiny makes him invulnerable and starts making all sorts of demands. Free me now. I'm not answering questions. Blah, blah, blah. Don't you know who I am? Krat decides he's had enough and begins crushing Andor's neck. I told the boy he should have kept his mouth shut. I think he agreed too, or Those could have just been gurgling noises. Oh, well, anyway. Finally, Grat has enough of Andor and tosses him aside into this giant energy intake shaft. Andor gets sucked in and starts bouncing around, screaming. Maybe Andor hit something sensitive on the way down, or just didn't agree with the reactor core. Next thing I know, all the ship's alarms are ringing. Everyone panics, and I run, barely making it to the ship in time before the explosion. Grat dies horribly, and the Dimians never quite recovered. Changed the political course of the entire sector for centuries to come. I'd call that quite a destiny, wouldn't you? Well, hey, the chances may not be great, but when one has the opportunity to see something like that twice in a lifetime... Anyway, go on. My throat is dry and you're making me cranky. Shoo!
How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan? What is it you would like to speak to me about? Well, I mentioned before that my parents had fled to Taris. Perhaps I can tell you about that. In the early days of the Mandalorian War, there had been fighting closer to the Outer Rim worlds. Cathar was there, yes. My people had a great reputation as warriors, and that appealed to the Mandalore version of honor. They sought to test themselves against us, I think. Test themselves by bombing our world, slaughtering my people while they slept or while they ran. They swooped down from space, across the world, firing at anything that moved. They used ships in space to destroy all orbital facilities and bombard the surface. We did resist, and in spite of their violent attack, we did stave them off for quite a while. But in the end, we were doomed. We were not members of the Republic. Cathar was beyond the edge of the Republic, in the Outer Rim. And besides, they could not have known. Our interstellar communications were the first things the Mandalores hit. All other short-range communicators were jammed. We were on our own. We knew what was coming. We had fought the Mandalorians in the first war against Exar Kun and the Sith. We knew there would be no mercy for us. The most we could do was pack the few of our people who survived onto what few ships remained and send them off into space as fast as they could. Most did not make it. My parents carried me as a baby with them and were lucky enough to escape. They fled as far as they were able and eventually settled on Taris. They could stand running no further, I think. But Taris was a horrible choice. Dominated by humans, intolerant of other species, it made everyday life unnecessarily hard. My father turned to stimulants. He spent much of his time in local bars and dives. But we are warriors. It runs through our blood. And when he was on stims, he became foolish. He let his warrior nature get the best of him. So he would get intoxicated, and he would fight. And finally, one day, he would die. I don't need your sarcasm or your pity. He died at the hands of another, killed by a man who provoked him into a fight and killed him like an animal. I am sorry. I cannot talk about this any longer right now. How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan? What is it you would like to speak to me about? Of course. If there is anything else, I am here to help.
Yeah, what do you want? The war we had with the Republic was supposed to be the most glorious battle in our history. But it was a very costly one. I guess we didn't think of how much we could lose in it. There weren't many of us after that last battle. Mandalore himself was killed at the hands of the Jedi Revan. The best of us could not defeat him. After that last battle, Those of us that survived were stripped of our weapons, our armor, and our basilisks. Revan's forces destroyed them while we were forced to watch. Those who hadn't fled earlier were left with nothing to call their own. No weapons, no armor, only the honor of having fought in the battle we just lost. For many, this was not enough. While the rest of us were sent into exile on the Outer Rim, they tried to relive the old days, raiding worlds. They're nothing more than bandits now. Yeah, I came to Terrace. And forcing for Davik was not stimulating. The gangs on Terrace and Davik's rivals were trash. They give no thrill in battle, no honor or glory in defeating them. It was like stepping on bugs. I sought worthy challenges, but the best that Terrace could offer were nothing to me. But I think now, with you, I may finally find opponents worth fighting. Maybe later I'll tell you more about what it was like to work for Davik. For now, though, we should get on with our lives. Is there something else you want to know? Your choice. I'm here if you want something done right.
Chua penki, yun patisa, di juba ji kotka naga, kingbu mwa mulira dwana, kingba nikcha lora kun, ki mulira kun kin, tong hitwama ag inko tune. Achua penki, yun patisa, di juba ji kotka naga, kingbu mwa mulira dwana, kingba nikcha lora kun. Chiwi aita ka chong chicha, agi inko tune chuna muri ra, tangi wama jiko na. Tongkit pa nonku nek abog, chiwa aita kang kicha na chupornibo. Kun muri ra slimo poiwanga, tangi wama ji human ak inkatune, tong hit wama ag inko tune. Por tong hi wama ji aki inko tun, tong pa no kun, no nek. Chiwi aita ka chong chicha, ki mulira kun kin, kinba no kun nik dorcha. Tong hit wama ag inko tune, por tong hi wama ji aki inko tun, tong pa no kun, no nek. Chiwi aita ka chong chicha, ki mulira kun kin, kinba no kun nik dorcha. Chachiska. Topa na otovo kasa, jiska dosoki, kopa bono nakachu, labora na winki smaktoma, kuyami jusku chitanai, uchua penki, topa na otovo kasa, yubabato kanchi, yatuka ulan, chiwi aita ka chong chicha, agi inko tune chuna muri ra, tangi wama jiko na, tongkit pa nonku nek abog, Ichuta! Topa na otovo kasa, pampa ki mulira kun kin. Changwa ba chingyo, shangwi chama ucha wish uyong kun. Achua penki, Yun pati sa dicoba jikota naga kinbuwa muliradwana kinbanik chalora kun Chiwa aita kang ki jiyokaku ubabaska dwana chichopa muska kakinja nawabagaon kinbanik chalora kun kakinja nawabagaon Pichage borang turang nada chawa yishun kun Noba mulira tilai kunka Kang nibora tong chitsa Chesko yohaba kaba nopi do ula Topa na ota vokasa Pampa ki mulira kun kin Changwaba chinyo shangwi chama ucha wish uyong kun Chiwi aita ka chong chicha Agi inko tune chuna muri ra tangit wama jiko na tongkit pa nongku nek abog Chiwa aita kang kicha na chupernibo kun muri ra slimo poiwanga tangit wama ji human ak in ikatune achua penki yun patisa tichuba jikonka naga kingbu mwa muri ra dwana Kinbanik chalora kun Tong hitwama ag iinko tune Portang hiwama ji aki inko tun Tong pano kun nonek Chiwi aita ka chong chicha Ki mulira kun kin Kinba no kun nik dota Jiska dosoki kopa bono nakachu Labora na winki smaktoma Kuyami jusku chitanai Uchua penki, topa na ota vokasa, yubabato kanchi, yatuka ulan, chiwa aita kang kicha na chupernibo, kun mulira slimo poiwanga, tang hitwama ji human ak in ikatune, tong hitwama ag iinkotune, portang hiwama ji aki inkotun, tong panokun, nonek, chiwi aita ka chong chicha, ki mulira kun kin, Kinba no konik dota Achua penki Yun patisa Tichuba jikota naga Kinbu mwa mulira dwana Kinba nik chalora kun Tong hitwama aki inkotune Portang hiwama ji aki inkotun Tong panokun nonek Chiwi aita ka chong chicha Ki mulira kun kin Kinba no konik dota Chiwi aita ka chong chicha Agi inko tune chuna mulira Tangit wama jiko na Tongkit pa no kunek abog Chiwa aita kang kicha na chupernibo Kun mulira slimo poiwanga Tangit wama ji human ak in ikatune Ki mulira kun kin Tong hitwama ag iinko tune Tong hitwama ag iinko tune Portang hiwama ji aki inko tun Tong panokun nonek Chiwi aita ka chong chicha Ki mulira kun kin Kinba no konik dota Achua penki Yun patisa Tichuba jikota naga Kingbu mwa mulira dwana Kinbanik chalora kun Jiska dosoki kopa bono nakachu Labora na winki smaktoma Kuyami jusku chitanai Uchua penki Topa na ota vokasa Yubabato kanchi Yatuka ulan Ki mulira kun kin Tong hitwama ag iinko tune
Yes?
Your wish?
I'm here.
You're back! I knew you'd come through for me. I knew I could count on you. You do have a tech land for me, right? Come to Papa, you sweet simian organ. It may not look like much, but once I turn this into a bottle of Torresian ale, it'll end up being worth a fortune. Thanks, Mission. You won't regret helping me out with this.
Please, Griff, let this be the last time. No more cons, no more scams, no more schemes. That's all I ask.
Hey, sis, no need to worry about that. I've turned over a new leaf. From now on, I'm gonna stay out of trouble and do things right. And once we've cornered the market on Torresian ale, good things will be heading my way. Then I'll make it up to you, Mission. Just wait, you'll see. You know, once we synthesize this and start brewing Torresian ale in mass quantities, we're gonna be looking for some investors. You give me a couple of 100 credits, and I can get you in on the ground floor. You'll get a return of, at least 20 times your investment. Wise move. I can see you really understand how business works. Now, when you see your chance, you jump at it, huh? That's my motto. I better get started on brewing that ale. Meet me back here later, and I'll have a down payment on what I owe you.
Ki mulira kun king. Tong hitwama ak inkotune. Ki mulira kun king. Tong hitwama ak inkotune. Chiwa aita kan kicha na jupornibo. Kun mulira slimo poiwanga. Tong hitwama ji human ak inkotune. Kakincha nawabagaon. Bagwa shank kontimachit Kakincha nawabagaon. Bagwa shank kontimachit
Hey there, what can I do for you? I appreciate everything you've done for Griff. You know that, right? I just hope things work out for him this time around. I guess we'll find out when he meets up with us at the Swkotor shop. If he's got those credits he promised you, then maybe there's hope for him yet.